Hey, English 321 students, this is week 7, and I wanted to give you an update to kind of orient you on what's going on, because I got a big announcement to make. The first thing is that the redesign assignment that you've done, you've given me the first attempt, and so there were a lot of pretty rough entries, people who didn't really make any design decisions at all, and so I'm going to be giving you guys feedback, but we're going to push back the final attempt of it another week. So I'm going to, instead of having you turn in the final attempt of that this week, which was the original plan, we're going to push it back a week. I'm going to have you do something else this week. So I'll talk about that in just a second. Let's see. Yeah, so I'm going to be, right after I finish this video, I'm going to be doing the Loom feedback, so I can tell you what I see with your design decisions so far. Then this week I'm going to assign the feedback response letter. I'll talk about that in just a minute. Okay, so the assignments that you have this week, week 7, you've got the highest quality available website summary. So you guys have done the Loom presentations about your highest quality website you could find, and these were great. You guys had super cool insights. You guys know how to look at websites. Great job with that. The next thing is to just watch each other's videos and then pick out the good things that you guys are, insights you're having about websites and website design, things to pay attention to. So that's that, the summary. The next thing is the feedback response letter. So what I'm going to do, just like I normally do, is record a Loom presentation giving you feedback on your redesign essay assignments. So then after that, what I want you to do is to write me a response letter where you listen to my feedback, and rather than just kind of listen to it and just kind of move on and, kind of use it, I want you to formalize a summary of what I said to you, and then have you justify why I said what I said, and then create a plan of action from that, right? So those 3 main goals of that response letter: summarize what I said, my feedback to you, talk about why you think I gave you that feedback. What am I trying to get you to do, or why does it seem like that thing is important to me? And then what is your plan for moving forward, right? Those 3 things need to be in that response letter. And then, like I say, the final attempt of the redesign essay assignment will be due next week, so the 14th. Okay, so then the big assignment for this week then is the proposal for your self-guided project. Last week I had you do an informal proposal, and you gave me a couple of sentences about what you wanted to do. Now we need to formalize it and have you start thinking through the project. So let's see. Yeah, so I made a more in-depth Loom presentation about about the assignment sheet. So I'm going to send it to myself right now on my computer. All right, so in Canvas, we open up our thing, and then here down at the bottom of syllabus and calendar, self-guided project proposal assignment sheet. You're going to want to look over this a few times because I've got the directions of how to do it here. So my beginning thing here that I wrote is that you're going to end this semester with this big project, self-guided project, and I want you to propose it to me. And so the first step of this big project you're going to do is writing this proposal. But in this paragraph, I kind of write to you guys that creating a proposal, every time I've ever done it in my life, it's always tricky and confusing and frustrating. Proposals, so I said you need to make decisions about what you're doing when you have no idea what you're doing. You guys, in your informal proposals that you gave me, some of you are like, well, I think a podcast, but maybe a blog, but maybe a video. So you haven't made super solid decisions at this point, and so you have to make a document saying, I've made this super solid decision, when you don't know if you've made a super solid decision. So it's scary and it's frustrating and it feels weird, but the point of this proposal is that you start making decisions and start settling on things right now, and then justifying those decisions so that you can move forward. So my advice for writing this proposal is make an idea, stick with that idea, go with it. The faster you do that, the easier your life is going to be. So the proposal that I want you to write is going to have 6 parts, and I've outlined the 6 parts here. what I want you to do. So the first section is an abstract or summary. This is like your elevator pitch. You have 2 sentences to tell me the what and the why of the project. What are you doing and why are you doing it? So that's the last thing that you should write. Don't start with the abstract or summary of the proposal. Do that the very last thing before you turn it in. Okay, so a bigger place to figure out is what you're doing is these here. So a statement of need or justification of the project, and this is a longer explanation of the why of your project. So I'm not going to go through these point by point. You guys can read them, but the why, and then basically the one after that is the what. What is your project? What are the smaller components of your project? How do you break it down into smaller pieces? And then how can you set a calendar for yourself, set a timeline up for yourself so you can break this big project into smaller projects. So this is going to take a lot of work and a lot of thinking. That's one reason why I moved the final attempt of the redesign assignment to next week, because I want you guys to focus on this and start thinking about what your project actually entails, what you're going to need to do. Okay, so you've got a big why section, you've got a what section. Then this section here, the fourth section, is not going to be necessary for everybody. Some of you, this section will not be necessary because you're just going to be creating the project by yourself. If you're not planning on interacting with other people, you don't need to fill this section out. But if there's something that you are doing with other people, you're getting writing from other people, you're interviewing other people, you have to get approval for something. If any of those things are true about your project, then you'll need to fill out this section. The fifth section is I want you to start thinking about audience considerations, right? So the main thing that I want you to think about here is what are you making and what is your audience going to expect from that thing? So if it's a podcast, what are podcasts like and how are you going to make it more like a podcast? If it's a video series or video essay, what are those like and what does your audience expect you to do? So thinking about their age and their political standpoint or religious affiliation, those are important. But I think it's easier to kind of come up with a generic audience. But if you want to do one aimed directly at members of the church, that's something to think about. If you want to do something aimed directly at some specific political group, you have to think about that, right? You don't get the idea of a general audience kind of doesn't exist a whole lot in the world that we live in. And so you got to think about specifically who do you want to talk to. Okay. Then the last 2 sections, the 6th and 7th here, are more just like thinking, okay, if you're going to do this project, how is it going to fit into this class? So I want you to think about how is it worth 300 points? One thing I want you to think about is that this project should take you about 30 hours of work over the course of the 5 weeks, right? So propose how you're going to break up those hours. What are you going to be spending your time on? And this doesn't have to be exact. You don't have to kill yourself thinking about every minute or hour or whatever. But it's just in general, how are you going to make this actually happen? So right now you're thinking through your proposal. What is my project? And a lot of this is just so you can think of so you can settle down on what exactly am I doing? Right? So the more you break that into smaller tasks and start thinking about what is going to be required, the better off you're going to be and the closer you're going to be to actually finishing this by the end of the semester too. Last thing is, tell me how you want it to be graded. So I give some examples, right? What do you want me to pay attention to? How can I be your coach through this? Do you see yourself as more of an editor and you want to pay attention to your ability to get all the grammar and the, style correct and everything? If that's true, if you want to pay more attention to your graphic design or your video editing or your podcast editing, I can help you in each of those different media. But you need to let me know what's going to be your priority. And so how do you want me to grade it? How do you want me to help you and help you move forward? Other thing about this proposal, I'd like you to design it to keep in mind. I feel like I've designed mine. I got, a contrast with my title. The alignment's all built in because it's a word processing document. I've got this bulleted list, right? And then I've got my headings that are all the same. So, that's about as far as I need you to go in thinking about designing your document. But think about your CRAP principles and think about headings and how a person is going to use this proposal document. You are going to use this proposal document. It's going to guide the next 5 weeks of your life. in my class. So think about that and design your document that way. Also, it's going to be revised and resubmitted. So this is just the first attempt of it. Next week will be your final attempt of that. So there you go. Okay, so that's it for this week 7. If you made it this far, thank you. Have a good week, and let me know if you have any questions.